that cloud is not normal.
Yeah.
And then it just went boom. The sky, the ceiling fell, and it was like, shit, this is a wildfire. And they hadn't really started being that prolific in Colorado back in 2010. And I had 3 kids. Sorry, I had 4. I just had our son was 6 months old with my new partner, and she had 2 kids, so we had 6 kids to get off the mountain quickly. And long story short, I was in charge of just, you're not thinking you're going to lose everything. You're just like, all right, this is an inconvenience.
Right.
We're gone for a couple days tops, and then we'll get back up here and sort out the ashes. So I ran into the house after we were trying to figure out what was going, and we were on the steep wall of the canyon. We had 30 steps leading up to our house. By the time I got all the way to the top of the steps, the house was in smoke. And I couldn't see anything inside, so I ran into the laundry room and just went through the washer and dryer and grabbed all the clothes that were in there and just ran off with that. That was what we had, and we never saw our house again.
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Dispatch. I appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode. Do us a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. It really does help out. Matson, brother, welcome in, man. You are the president or founder of Ease Horsemanship, and we just went through an amazing time with you and your crew, and I can't thank you guys enough how awesome it truly is. Like, you explained it to me on the phone, you sent me pictures, but I didn't even realize how amazing it was going to be until we were out there. How you feeling, dude? How do you feel about the past 5 days? Do you feel like it was a success or what?
Without question, a massive success. When you bring 12 people together within a couple months' notice, all gathering around a common theme of working through disruptions in our lives, whether it be with our wives and children or our parents or our work or our own health or the state of our country. When you bring 12 people together, because you have to remember, we brought 5 participants in and 7 staff, but the 7 staff members are never going to pretend to not be one and the same.
Yeah.
So it's always really interesting to do that. We've got several folks in the background here as a part of this podcast that are still in town. We came off the mountain yesterday, and we've still got the majority of the crew in town, which means a lot. So I would say, yeah, massive success.
Oh, brother. I mean, from getting in to you working with me on day 1, getting me on Rooster, showing me the basics of horsemanship. I mean, it was just amazing. I felt like the first day when I was on him and you're like, all right, now you're going to ride without the reins. And I'm like, brother, I don't know if I can do that. Rooster was giving me a hard time. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to ride up in the mountains. And then just each day, I just felt like I got stronger and stronger and stronger. The way you approach it, the way you explain it, you don't just kind of sugarcoat it and skip over steps. You literally go step by step by step, and you truly teach someone how to get on a horse, how to ride a horse, how, what to look for. And your teaching style is, you're very patient, and you're not gonna, from what the stories you've talked about with cowboys and ranches, they probably take a different approach than you usually do. And your teaching style is fantastic, but not just that, like the amenities that you guys put together, the location of your camp, your drop camp was just gorgeous. The food, Miss Juanita's food was just outstanding. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, you guys did not disappoint. And then the conversations and your input, and brother, like, I just...
Hashtag Juanita's Ride for the best food in town.
Oh, absolutely.
At 8,000 feet out of the back of a camper.
And using a campfire.
3 meals a day for 12 guys, 1 woman. enough said. Everybody knows about Juanita hate balding in Sheridan, but
yes,
now her name will make it around the country, and she deserves that. She'll be here in a little bit, so
as it should be. And I told you this morning, like we woke up and had breakfast. I was like, this is just not the same. I can't eat this stuff. You know?
Well, yeah, you had breakfast at the Ramada.
At the Ramada, right?
Wasn't the same.
Yeah, it was not the same. Not from what we were getting.
Yeah,
man. And it was just fantastic. Like,
well, we'll bounce around with that a little bit, but you know, one of the things we really endeavor to do is create and provide transformative experiences.
Yeah.
And that's an ambitious thing to say.
Oh,
especially to like type A people, you know, the combat veterans, the LEOs like you, people like, you know, Jacob standing over here with the reality that he's going through, and Chris coming all the way from San Antonio to say, hey, I'm going to give you a transformative experience.
Yeah.
Something that is going to be over and above where you are in your life right now, and we really want to blow you away. And none of it's commercial. It's all internal. This is not a commercial product. This is an experience laid out for you to walk through and see what's revealed. And the way that we've come about doing it is a big story that we'll get into. But yeah, the site that we had, we're down in basically in between Sheridan, Wyoming, and Bighorn, right at the foot of the Bighorn Mountains. And on Sunday of last week, it's now Friday, we caravanned up there with, you know, a bunch of trucks and trailers, and basically bootjacked our way in to a spot that I've known for several years called I'm not going to say it.
Can't give
I'm
the
not
secrets.
Say it. Yeah.
Can't give the secrets.
Just up yonder, no telling woods.
They'll have to come out and experience it for themselves to find out the
Right.
true location where it's at, brother.
Yeah, and it's just a spot that is meant to be for our group. It's in the national forest, so you can't reserve it. And it's the 4th of July weekend, and we just always pray that it's going to be there for us, and somehow it always is.
We almost lost it
We
this
set
year,
up perfectly. I'm sure you'll be putting up a lot of pictures and videos, and so yeah, transformative is what we aim for. That's our objective, and whether that's immediate or a day down the road or a few weeks down the road or coming back to us and working on it again, we're being kind of vague about what we're doing, but that's what we're working on.
Yeah, man, and you accomplish it. I don't want to get too in depth of like kind of like what Eddie's is all about. We can talk about that later on the podcast, but for people who don't know what Eddie's is, give us like a little snippet, maybe like 30 seconds or so about what you guys do, who you help, what the kind of message is behind that.
Yeah, in a nutshell, our name is Ease Horsemanship. We started off in 2024. This is our 3rd complete season, and we started off just working with combat veterans and Wyoming mustangs. So wild horses that had been somewhat gentled, that ran the country around us, and we brought several of them in to work with veterans that were dealing with complex PTSD after multiple deployments. We then had an experience in town where a police officer, similar to your story, was held hostage and shot point blank in a very, very public way early of 2024. And it rocked the community, and it became pretty clear that we needed to develop more resources for our first responders, and we needed to work on stigma and communication around it so that people that serve our country and our communities don't feel stigmatized or pathologized with PTSD and are afraid to ask for help because they might be fear of being labeled or losing their jobs. So we tried to create experiences, transformative experiences that are non-therapeutic. We don't claim to be healers. We don't claim to be therapists. So after several seasons, 3 seasons now, we've evolved on 2 different ways. We no longer just work with veterans. We work with all types of first responders, EMTs, firefighters, ICU nurses, emergency medics, you name it. We'll take all comers, and from all over the country. I mean, the whole camp was from a different state.
Yeah.
Every single person had a different license plate when they pulled up. Idaho, Nebraska, Illinois, Kentucky, Ohio, Wyoming.
Texas.
And so we're a Wyoming-based organization that's a nonprofit full of staffed by only volunteers. We run on our own steam and serve. We try to serve people and scholarship people and meet them where their needs are at. And everything, if people do pay, that goes right back into the organization as a scholarship for future people that can't. So yeah, so that's basically what we do is we create these transformative experiences for trauma survivors along their pathway to awareness. Has to happen first, relationship, and recovery.
Yeah.
And that's our elevator pitch.
That's awesome, brother. And you guys do a fantastic job of experiencing it for myself firsthand. I mean, the first night we met here at the cabin. You know, you guys put together a beautiful dinner for everybody, and we all just kind of got to sit down and just talk and just kind of get to know each other and share a meal together. And I kind of correlate it to being in the military, right? Where you get guys from all across the country come together, and you guys don't know each other from Adam. Like different backgrounds, different lifestyles. You know, me from Chicago, we had a guy from Texas, another guy from Nebraska, Ohio, and just everyone, Virginia, and Atlanta, Georgia, and just you could just right off the rip, you just start meshing. Like it's just good people, and everyone I met right off the rip, I can these are good people, and just like even you and your staff and the Dry Creek boys, correct? That was Dwayne and his sons and Tom, and just good people wanting to do good things and wanting to help. And I knew from the start we were in good hands, because it's you don't know anything about anyone here, right? And you have a little bit of reservation coming here and be like, man, am I going to have a good time? Am I going to gel with these people? And there was nothing to worry about. You just right off the rip, it was just a good connection.
Yeah, and this is 100% a collaboration. First and foremost, shout out to Dwayne. We were going to do this podcast. First it was Monday, then it was Tuesday, then it was Wednesday, and we were too tired every time we rolled into camp, and we were like, yeah, we'll do it. And then it's like, no, it's not going to happen tonight. And Dwayne Knoll of Dry Creek Wrangler School is a big partner in this whole concept of the dry camp program. He drove all the way out from Kentucky.
Yes, he did.
Pulling 3 horses. His partner in crime, Tom Schubert, came all the way from Kentucky as well to be staff. And his sons are so accomplished in the horsemanship world, Ben and Jesse, who are also veterans and first responders, as is Dwayne, a veteran first responder. They came all the way from Idaho, showed up at 7 a.m. one morning, Monday morning, our first morning out. Literally just drove through the night to show up, and to not only to serve as professional horsemen and handlers and wranglers. We were 1-to-1 ratio the whole time with you guys.
Yeah.
And they were always, kind of in the periphery watching, making sure you guys were good. Cinches were tight. Everybody was, calm and collected. The horses were behaving. Nobody moving out of step. And we didn't have but one casualty, and it couldn't be avoided, and no harm, no foul. But to see those young men, Dwayne's sons, who are both in their early 30s and have their own lives with their own issues, not put them on the shelf, but to bring those to the fire and to serve as visible examples of strength.
Yeah.
Just like you do in your community, but nobody gets to know your story until you. And those guys acted like the leaders that they are. But then if you asked anything of them, full transparency around the fire around the fire is a metaphor, but we literally sat around the fire half the day.
Yeah.
In the morning from sun up, and then afterwards until sundown, well after sundown for the younger guys. To see those young men, Tom, Ben and Jesse at 30 something.
Yeah.
We had a 60-year-old participant. We had a 68-year-old participant. To see them be able to share their experiences and have it be potent and relative was awesome.
It really was. And the openness was fantastic, where, you feel like you're the only one going through something in life, that I'm the only one suffering. I'm the only one that feels this way. I'm the only one that feels lonely. And then you hear these guys open up and tell their stories and share their experiences. It's eye-opening in a good way, where you're just like, all right, I don't feel alone. And we had a bunch of guys like Drew from, Georgia, like he opened up and started sharing some of his stories. And you're just like, man, like if this guy can go through what he went through. For you guys that don't know, Drew was in a wheelchair not just a year ago, and he's just like, I'm done with the wheelchair. And he put that thing aside, and that guy was out there riding horseback in the mountains. It was just amazing to see the grit that guy had. It was cool, man.
Yeah,
it really was.
Yeah, and I had not met. I had been in conversation with Drew for 6 months.
Yeah.
And talk about somebody that was motivated and fired up and prepared.
Yeah.
Preparing every week, in contact with us every week, with other veteran staff members to get him ready, mostly mentally and emotionally. It's a tough thing when you're a guy like that and your body starts to go, nerve damage, right. And you've got to be accepting, and you surrender it. And he was a model for all of us, because we knew he wanted to ride with us every single day, and he had to turn around when he had to turn around, and he took care of himself.
Yeah, there's no shame in that.
That's accountability.
Yeah.
Yep.
Know your limits.
And what I like to say is, guess what? Every night he was sitting by the fire. Every morning he was sitting by the fire.
Yes, he was.
Every day but one, he saddled up and rode out.
Yep.
Yeah, blows me away, humbles me.
Oh, humbled me as well. Just kind of like day one when we were driving up there, you start to get the feel of what is, your atmosphere is going to be like driving up in the mountains. You just see how beautiful it is. And then you get to the campsite, and then you get up and, where drop camp's going to be. And you're just like, God, this is just beautiful. And when we went out riding for the first time, it was just mind blowing. And you sent me a video of like you crossing a bridge over at Tommy's place. And I'm like, this looks AI. And I would show my buddies like, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. They're like, this is no way, it's real. And I'm like, no, it does look fake. And then I'm out there horseback, and you take us up the first time through the creek, and the woods break, and you just see the openness, and then the mountain face and the rock faces, and you're just like, oh my God, it even looks AI in real life. Like I had to pinch myself a few times to kind of lock in.
It's a movie set for sure.
It really is. It really is. And just, another cool thing is it's like your experiences up in those mountains, where you're just like, this is where I would. For you guys that don't know, Matson spent a good amount of time up in the mountains wrangling cattle, and he just is like, all right, this is where I would come to check my emails. This is where I would come to, make contact with the world, just to kind of let everyone know I was still alive. So your personal experience kind of added to the whole atmosphere of it. And those mountains like the back of your hand, man.
Yeah, well, those mountains are variable. Like we found out on the last day, there's fire, there's wind, there's snow. There's rain, everything. And were we riding trails?
Yeah.
We were never really on trails. We weren't on
right.
Like Forest Service trails.
Right.
We were on game trails.
Yes.
That, depending upon how the game, which is mostly, deer, antelope, and a whole heck of a lot of cows, depending upon how they migrate year to year, determines how visible the trails are.
Yeah.
And this part of it is really abstract, but it's interesting when you get up there and your mind stops working the way it works down here, which is down here you take in so much stimuli and so much information, You never, ever are without information.
Oh, for sure.
Most people are not, unless they're into meditation, multitasking at the stoplight, at the cash register. Every single thing we're multitasking with. I'll take that message now. Up there is no multitasking, so your senses are on fire. And like, I'll tell you what, that trail that we rode yesterday, was it yesterday?
No, the day
2 days
before.
ago.
2 days ago.
It's
It's all blended together.
Yeah. I remembered exactly where things were because visually you just store those memories, and you're also reliant upon those places being where you need them to be, because one mistake could be 4 hours.
Right.
And 4 hours for me and one horse is not a big deal.
Right.
Because I can lope out and get to where. But to pull 10 guys of different experiences with a 1 hour mistake could turn into 4, could turn into dark.
Yeah.
And so you just remember things a lot better, because I never work with Onyx or GPS.
Onyx is a GPS system, for people that don't know. Sorry.
Never worked with one at all up there. I just learned it by riding it, and every now and then using just a topo map. I needed to know where it was, because if you're moving cows, you can't get your hands free at all times to stop and look at stuff. So yeah, to say I know that area really well is 100%. And when I was riding it for work, taking care of 600 some odd cow-calf pairs, it was just an overwhelming experience. But as I settled into gratitude every day for being able to fight another day and stay healthy, and horses staying healthy and cows being where they're supposed to be and the job being manageable, I became committed to one day realizing that if I could share this with people, it would be something really powerful.
And it is.
And share it with the right kind of person, not just take somebody out that wants to fish, and nothing wrong with that, but to share it with people that need to be up there, that need to get away, and to need to get to that part of themselves that isn't necessarily accessible in society. It's 100% true.
So true. And you touched on the subject of disconnecting, right? Like multitasking. I mean, how many people in this world actually take time to disconnect from their phone, disconnect from the politics, the news, what's going on in this world? And you don't have a choice when you get up there. There is no self-service. There is no connection to the internet. And there's something beautiful about that, where you don't have to worry about what's going on in the world. I mean, we could have been under attack and we never would have even known. There's so many different special things about that whole trip in general, where if it was that relationship you had with the horse, there is something special and magical there for sure. Miss Juanita just walked up.
Oh, and Jeremiah's here too.
Oh, perfect.
Guys, come on out. Pause.
Yeah, we could pause. We left off with talking about, before Miss Juanita came up and gave us this sweet rug, that disconnecting, I think, is a huge part of this program, what you guys have going on here, where you are not connected to your phone. You're not connected to what's going on in the news. And I think a lot of those things are kind of triggers with what's going on in our own personal lives. But then you also have that personal connection with your horse, which is very special, which we can get into as well. But also, like, the peer aspect of it is huge as well. Not just with the staff, or your crew. What do you guys call it? Your
herd.
Your herd.
Yeah, there's a number of different names. Our outfit.
That's it. That's what I was looking for. But because we talked about the youngest gentleman was 17 years old and the oldest was 68, and everyone had a different life experience and is able to kind of give their aspect and their perspective on life, which I think is huge for people to see and understand. So, there's just so many different aspects to what you guys bring, and getting up in the mountains and getting detached from the day-to-day life. And I think it's huge for, mental health and personal growth, because you're not on your phone scrolling, right? You're not looking what's on the news. You can take that time to, collect your own thoughts, maybe go sit on a rock, maybe do some meditation. I think that's huge. What are your thoughts on? Is that kind of part of the program for you
I
guys?
think it's almost, at least I know, speaking for myself, I'm old enough to remember certain homes or places that we lived where internet didn't reach, and there wasn't any technology that allowed it to be accessible.
Yeah.
So your phone, whatever it was, a flip, um, just went in a cigar box or on the dresser, and you turned it off, and when you dropped back into town or down the canyon, it came back on, and that was a different life. So you actually picked up a magazine or a book or had a conversation without distraction. Um, and I probably was the one of the few people in camp that had my phone with me, because I'm recording the experience.
Right.
And you guys didn't have to worry about your phones, because I was getting the photo and the video that would make it memorable for you. But it was cool to hear. I think you were with me, and hear about other people's phones just blowing up when they dropped down the canyon on Thursday morning with all the messages. And absolutely nobody felt compelled to be on the phone and to seek alternative connectivity,
Yeah.
which you can do now with satellite. I didn't see anybody trying to hook up with that. And we talked about that, bringing up some phone banks for charging. And ultimately, Dwayne and I made that decision that we didn't want anybody, because we had 3 guys in camp, including you, that are 35, 25, and 17. That's a whole nother generation than some of us that you guys are, rightfully so, very connected, but that takes away from the experience.
Agreed.
And it isn't accessible. It isn't accessible in our lives to the non-monastic kind of people that aren't reclusive. I mean, what percentage of the population do you think doesn't have a phone on them at all times?
Right.
You guys went 5 days without it. And it makes a difference in how you connect with yourself, with one another. You sought out, most of the people up at camp sought out connection with other people, rather than, like, we had a guy last year that rode a lot, played his guitar. Almost the whole time our camp was connection amongst the men. And that's magical, and that doesn't exist. We had two cowboys in camp that are real deal cowboys, and they said, I've done this shit before. I've ridden horses and been up in the mountains, but not with this kind of goal. Not with men that want to connect with each other and be real. And let's be honest, like Wyoming, this is cowboy culture. This is cowboy up. We have some of the toughest ranchers and horsemen and cowboys in the world here. Yet we have the highest suicide rate in the country.
I didn't know that.
And many of that is our rural community. And we could go off on that subject, but if we could just learn to trust each other with our fears and with our losses and with our realities, and know that everybody else has that everybody doesn't have to sign up for a trip, that you can just do that every day with your outfit. And I know it doesn't exist. I've lived in that world. And that's why we designed this to be the way that it is, that people would sit around the fire for hours and talk. And the interesting thing is guess where it was quietest? When we were horseback.
Yeah.
There was very little talking when we were horseback, because everybody was taking it in and decompressing and processing and practicing what they've been learning horseback, because it is so tranquil, and the country up there is so tranquil. The weather's perfect. There's just nothing that's where you're prepared, so you're not
Right.
nervous.
Right.
Anxiety was low, and you're just enjoying silence, like 100% silence for hours.
And you don't get that often, man.
We
You
rode
really
9
don't.
out. We rode 9 hours the last day, 21 miles, all over the place. You can't put that in a catalog.
You can't. You truly and honestly can't.
And even if you could, people would know what you're talking about.
Right.
You got to come up and it's not like they understand this. You got to come up and experience it.
What was your saying? You talked about, if we're riding on the trail and you're talking and I say something, I can't remember your exact verbiage, but it was honestly like spot on. It was like you politely saying, "Stop talking. I'm trying to enjoy the peacefulness." Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I said for when there's too much conversation amongst us when we're riding, I said, "Hey, do you know what the average amount of silence a typical person experiences on any given day, not including when you're sleeping? What is that? What do you think the average amount of time is?"
I think probably truthfully in like today's society, maybe like 10, 15 minutes.
8 to 10 minutes. And so if somebody just can't stop talking out of nervousness or whatever, just say, "You're ruining my solitude. You're just taking away from, I want my 8 to 10 minutes. Now be quiet."
Yeah. And it is solitude. Like I took a second and just listened, and it was like deafening quiet.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And you talked about disconnecting or not looking at your phones or feeling that need to look at your phone. We came off the mountain on Thursday morning. I still have text messages I haven't responded to yet.
You don't need to.
No, and I don't want to.
You will, but you don't
Eventually.
need to right now. You get to what's important.
Right, when I got back to reality, because when I got back, it was, you know what, I want to spend time with Chris. I want to spend time with Jacob. I want to spend time with you and Miss Juanita and Tim and Drew. And it was awesome, man. And it is just something special. And I guarantee you can ask Chris, I guarantee you can ask Jacob or anyone else in this outfit that we have a bond now that we shared with each other. But back to like riding in the mountains, it was just peaceful, and I didn't feel the need to be on my phone. Only time I wanted to take pictures, it was just like of things that like just looked like out of a magazine. Every little game trail we rode down, anytime we were up on the mesa, it's just like, this looks fake. It looks like AI. I have to take a picture of it. And then I think it was the second or third day when we took a break in that little mountain face when Sean said it was too hot. It was just gorgeous. Some of those pictures we took when we were just relaxing and everyone was at peace. I think I have a picture of you kind of just sitting on a rock. It looks stoic. It was just beautiful, man. So you're definitely going to get solitude up there. You're going to get everything and more that you need. And honestly and truthfully, it fed my soul. It really did, because, and we talked about this too, where like I almost didn't come on this trip.
Yeah.
Because of so many things going on. And then I felt bad leaving my wife with my son. And I'm so happy that I was just like, you know what, screw it. Like, it's now or never. And it was probably one of the best things that's happened to me in a long time, man.
Thank you. That
and
means
it was
a lot.
all thanks to you and your crew.
Yeah, I mean, that's worth talking about. Is shout out to Chris Searles if he's listening, in Boulder Crest, and it's a veterans group out of Virginia in Pinedale, Wyoming, connecting us with Lori, who you know from
Lori, yeah.
her brother's dramatic death in Afghanistan and the trauma that's caused her family, and how she connected with you to get his story out.
Yeah.
And she was somewhat connected to our story and wanted to kind of spotlight us and connected us with a few other outlets, and it was you. And all she was really doing was thinking I'd come out to Chicago and do a podcast with you. And the first conversation, when you asked, the kind of experiences that we provided, you were like, "Wait a second, can I do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure. I don't really know your story just yet, but technically, yes, you can come out." I'm in.
Yeah, man.
From the beginning. And I was like, okay, let's see what happens here. And you were motivated the whole time. And, both of us were so busy. We still didn't really get to rewind and go into each other's history and see what the connection would be like. It was just trusting it through Lori.
Yeah.
And her story of loss with her brother, and knowing there's a reason why she put us together, and that would eventually reveal itself in a very cool way. And yeah, I do vividly remember the first time I encounter everybody that does these kind of trips with us, and I'll vividly remember that first several hours with you, because you're just so motivated and so just disciplined and positive and searching.
Yeah.
And brave.
I appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, I was literally talking to my wife about it. It's just like I felt like I needed to detach, and it was just like eating at me, where I just felt like I just wanted to go camping. And I kept telling people, I'm like, hey, like, we should go plan a camping trip. Like, I just want to get out of here. Like, I want to get away from this, like where I live in Chicago and just the day-to-day life. Because I know this for myself personally, where I always sacrifice things for myself to try and push things along for others, or like my family, or, and put my needs on the back burner of like not meditating when I know I need to. I know it's beneficial for me, and I just wanted that connection in nature. And I kept telling my wife, I'm like, I want to go on a trip. I want to go on a camping trip. Like, I don't care. It could be a tent, and that's all I need. So when I talked to you that time and you were telling me about the trip and how amazing it is and what you guys do, I'm like, this is it. Like, I've been asking for it, and God's putting it in front of me. I'm going to be an idiot if I don't take that opportunity. I'm going to let that slip through my fingers, and I almost did. And I'm so happy and grateful that Lori did connect us. And I didn't know you from Adam. I barely knew anything about you guys. And it's just that trust that I know Lori, I know who she is as a person. And if she knows you and trusts you and, recommends a connection with us, like, because my studio is in my home, and I have people in my home, that's like a safety issue for me. So that she's willing to, recommend you to come to my home, I'm like, he has to be a good guy. And she did not disappoint.
That's funny, because jumping on a tangent real quick.
Yeah, please.
One of our clients, our participants, I like to call them participants, 17-year-old Jacob, going through an incredible amount. And I turned to him at one point on the ride and I said, how are you liking this? How's this working for you? And he just turned to us and said, I'm home.
Yeah, I do remember.
I'm home. And this is a young man that came all the way out from Nebraska. We'll talk about him, I think, maybe a little bit later. But yeah, just that word home. You trust. It is kind of the trauma family.
Yeah.
For those of us that are broken, not probably just once or twice or three times, there is a bond, there is something genetic, not genetic, but cellular, that happens that allows you to have a level of compassion and connection and presence around other people, even if it's over the phone. And it's a family. Like Lori is a part of one of my families on Wednesday. We all get together. And she knew.
For sure.
Yeah. And trauma speaks to trauma. Pain speaks to pain. 70% of the population is dealing with what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And that's what our mission has evolved to be, is not just supporting our veterans and first responders, but really anybody that is going through disruption due to a mental health crisis. And mental health is not, psychosis, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety. Mental health is mood disturbance, like reality disturbance because of trauma.
Yeah.
Because of like the kind of pain, physical pain you went through, the kind of literal loss, physical, material, emotional loss that I went through, that to steal a quote from another organization, it changes the narrative of your life.
Yeah.
It disrupts everything that you believe to be true.
Yeah.
And you've done it before. You've dealt with trauma your whole life. Could have been a knee injury in football or something like that, or loss of a job, or loss of a loved one, and you stash it away, you stash it away, you stash it away. That's what we're taught. Don't talk about it, don't admit it, don't concede. You stash it away, bury it, put it in the closet. That experience will come along ultimately that will disrupt everything and change your narrative. And then you will have to reinvent your system of beliefs. They will change. As certain as your appearance changes,
For sure.
your core beliefs will change.
For sure.
And if they don't,
You have some more work
that's
to
a
do.
boring life.
Yeah, or you have more work to do on yourself because
Yeah.
you're lying to yourself. You can
Yeah.
only put things into a little box
Yeah.
before that box starts to overflow.
Yeah.
And then it bleeds over into your life and
Yeah.
your relationships who you have with people.
Yeah.
And this experience helps you with that. It really truly does.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have a single guy sitting around that fire that said, you know what? When I was 15, I was told to write my 20-year plan. And I'm 18 years in, and I'm everything's good, man.
Yep.
I'm so happy. I'm just right there. It's like the end of the fourth quarter. I'm ready to retire at 45. Things are perfect. Everything's gone to plan.
Yeah.
That person has not experienced life.
Nope.
He has not gone through what you've gone through, what Jacob's going through, and that makes you that transforms you.
Yeah.
And as you know, many of my peers always say, it's not the trauma, it's the struggle. It's the struggle that leads to the growth and leads to the post-traumatic growth comes out of the struggle.
Yeah. And I want to, you talked about the fire, and I'm not going to say what people, mentioned or anything. And you talk about the trust and that relationships you guys build with each other. And it was the morning we were moving out, and we were all sitting around the campfire, and we were all having a cup of coffee, and we're talking. And then you sat down and you started out the conversation, and you wanted everyone to go around and kind of talk about what you liked about the trip, what can be changed, or anything in general, right? And each person went around, and I can start slowly feeling myself get more and more emotional and worked up. Dwayne's boys talked about, they said what they said, and I'm just like, and them opening up and talking, and I'm like, wow, like that's powerful. And then just kept going, and then by the time it got to me, I was already about to start crying, and I usually don't cry, so and when I started talking, I could feel the lump in my throat. And I meant every word I said about each one of these guys at that fire, and what I've learned from them, and how much I appreciate them, and how proud truly I am of them as each individual of who they are. Like an example, Chris is sitting right here, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing about what I said about him, but like a 25-year-old starting his own business, having his own trucking company, and being a hotshot, like that's amazing, man. Like I didn't have my life figured out at 25. I mean, I did, but not to that extent. Like I didn't own my own trucking company. Like that's just amazing. Do you usually get that type of experience, that type of connection? I know this is probably your second go around, but you have different events. Do you usually get that connection with your participants when they come up there?
Broadly, yes. Like Chris, no. Chris came to us, a young man from San Antonio, Texas. He came through a reference from Dwayne, the Dry Creek Wrangler School, and at this point we were looking for people that had interesting objectives and had the ability to endure a week in the mountains. And like Chris never really said, here's my burden, here's my anchor, here's my trauma. And he slowly started to peel back some of the layers. And he's sitting there staring at me right now, so I'm not going to look at him. But he has another chapter to his story, and he has as much said, you guys taught me a lot. And I know just from having that sense of clairvoyance with trauma that he's got something he's dealing with, and he's having a hard time putting it out there and feeling really safe about it. And we haven't really had too much of that yet, but his age is really young.
Yeah.
Like, when I first started to really, I have two boys on opposite sides, 26 and 24, and I know for a fact they're not in touch with the issues that are forthcoming, or the issues that were really challenging early in their lives. They're not ready to deal with them, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They're not fully mature. But at your age, 35, right?
Yep.
35 is a big year for a man, and typically you've gone through some experiences. You might have a few kids. You might have changed jobs a few times. You might have already experienced complete devastation, like you have, and I was starting to. And it's about that third decade where there's a lot of reckoning going on. So the reason we haven't had that yet is that lack of disclosure, but full participation, is because we're dealing with older guys that perhaps should have started it like at 25 when Chris is.
Yeah.
And there's no judgment. There's no right or wrong. He participated 100%. But usually what happens is somebody comes up with a backpack full of shit and says, F therapy.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It's not working for me. I can't get in to see my guy that I like when I need to see him, or I can't find a person that identifies with me. I can't afford it. I can't travel 60 miles. They don't relate. It doesn't work. If you're a veteran, I don't want meds. I don't want to do 60-day stays in a trauma, recovery center. I want something different. That's what we get. We get guys with these huge rucksacks and backpacks that they can't even climb the mountain, and then they'll say, take the bubble wrap off. Like, expose me to something that's going to make me feel like I just achieved something I can be proud of.
Yeah.
And amongst other peers that I respect. And it's like a force multiplier. That's a huge word that we use a lot, because you're going through it. And we saw it happen. We saw one guy, he spit out. He couldn't handle it for whatever reason, but everybody else stuck. And that's why we are on the side of a mountain, because there's not too many ways out. Once you're in, you're in.
You're in it.
Unless you run down to the highway and thumb it home. But generally, people full on open up. And the three guys that we had last year, one survived a heart attack after the drop camp. One client survived 8 months of feeling suicidal afterwards. And one client is now, this might not be exactly right with the different clients, but when one client is engaged, married, and having his first kid.
Let's go.
And so, not to say that's a direct result of what we talked about up there, but people get set onto, and like I said, their narrative changes magically. And it's different for every person.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think you touched on like therapy and all that stuff. I think you have to come into this type of situation wanting to put that effort forward and wanting to do the work, wanting to have those conversations, wanting to be vulnerable, right? Because you mentioned that.
Yeah.
You mentioned vulnerability. Like, you have to be vulnerable. Like, there's no shame here. Like, if you feel like you can't ride for the day, you can't ride for the day. Like, speak up, tell someone something. I think that's also very important. I think that's also, you kind of set the ground for everyone to be like, you know what? Okay, this is a safe place for me to talk about. And I know that sounds crunchy, and if that's how you feel, and that I don't really care. But like, it's a good atmosphere. It's a good groundwork, laying the groundwork for everyone, and kind of like informing everybody, like, this is how it's going to be. I think that's something that you guys do very well, very, very well.
Yeah, and that just comes from real life experience. And you know, everybody kind of, it's not like everybody just signs up and goes, oh yeah, I got this, just send me a, you know, a list to prepare.
Yeah.
Generally people that have gone through the experiences that are going to push them to something like this have a level of anxiousness about being ready, and so that leads to a lot of conversations with our team. Whether it's visualization, you know, sharing what you can do through social media, and just, you know, the thousands and thousands of photos, or talking to somebody. Like the first guy with Drew, the 60-year-old gentleman veteran from Atlanta, I put him in touch with a guy that just came through camp, 58 years old, and they had very similar dispositions, and they just met and talked over the phone. So that was his connection that helped him through the anxiousness, because again, that trauma versus trauma, speaking to trauma, you know, like we talked about that with somebody on the street today, that ship leaving the dock, or the train leaving the station. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
What do you do before it leaves to get ready or not to get injured? If you can reach out to somebody that has experience in those situations, and you can be humble enough to say, I've accomplished a lot in my life, but I'm not ready for this. Can you help me?
Yeah.
It's a great mindset to have.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Now, the next question I want to bring up, or topic I want to get onto, is kind of like riding ability, right? So you have guys like me who's never ridden before, and you have, you know, gentlemen like Jacob at 17 who's been riding since he's 4 years old. But then also there's another factor in the mix of like injuries and restrictions of an individual. Tim, by the way, is 68 years old, and he is just a badass, and he gutted it out and just loved every second of it. So that, along with your guys' motto that you have on this hat here, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to kind of tell everyone your guys' motto, and I think that kind of correlates with people's riding levels and restrictions, because I think trust is a huge thing, and trust is a huge thing when you're riding a horse.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. The hat just says simply on the front, at ease, and you've got a caricature of 5 cowboys and their horses, just really in a relaxed state, you know. Probably a mixed state of reflection and being tired and mutual respect, and that was done by a local artist, Joel Osland. And then on the side it says, move at the speed of trust. And that means a lot of different things to different people. But when you're first, like we started off with just working with 1 Mustang, and then we went to 3 Mustangs, and working with people that really had complex trauma, and we put them in this round pen, a 30-foot round pen, that was like, you know, going into you know, the octagon with Conor McGregor or something on the other side, and someone be like, yeah, he's all right, he's gonna take care of you, and then he's just over there just ready to tear you apart.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, move at the speed of trust and developing a relationship with that fire breathing dragon. And so how do you do that? And so with a animal that you believe to be wild, which it isn't, it's been trained a little bit, but it still can annihilate you in a split second.
Yeah.
And you don't know. So what do? You first go about developing awareness of the situation. Ask some questions, you know, move in a certain way that's not threatening. Watch, observe, develop relationships. And so I don't really care what your riding experience is. It doesn't matter whether you're proficient from age 4 or just learning. Are you athletic? Do you take care of your body? Are you patient? Are you humble? Are you willing to learn from the horse? Are you willing to learn a new language? Are you willing to be patient enough for us to say, no, you can't get in the saddle because you still can't control that horse's feet from the ground. You're not speaking his language, and he certainly doesn't understand yours. So stay in that round pen until you think he gets what you're saying. And that is going to take a long time. And so we aren't necessarily a horsemanship clinic. We're far from that. We don't have the time for that, to turn everybody into excellent horsemen. That's another thing that you can do before, during, or after working with us. If you become totally immersed in this culture, there's 1,000 horse clinics you can go to.
Right.
But what we're teaching is something much more visceral. Like, what is it the inside of that horse can teach you? You can take, like Diaz, Rooster.
Oh, Rooster.
You know, and that's the first thing we did, is we had conversations with all of you. What's your height? What's your weight? What's your physical ability? What are your... And then we paired you with a horse that we believed would be a good partner. And I think we nailed it. I think every single person stayed with their original horse.
You crushed it.
And none of that was like, oh, nice boots, you're wearing your jeans right, good hat, you're not wearing felt at the wrong time, you're not wearing the wrong label, all of this shit that has come about with the Yellowstone cowboy.
Right.
And country music and all of that stuff. There's a great amount of attention on the Western look, and we all love it and probably spend too much time thinking about it, but that does not make you a horseman. That makes you a follower of a certain culture.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can tell within minutes, 10 minutes, if a person has experience or not. And then you can tell within a day if the person's going to be able to progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And
much like many sports, I bet.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, for sure. You can you pick it up or can you not? Like that's a huge factor. Trust, right? And that's why I feel like your guys' slogan, your guys' saying is just, it's so true, and it's just so spot on with what we're doing here, with what you're doing here, with what we did up there, where you have to trust that horse, right? And you know, we went into checking the hooves, right? You're checking the hooves, or you're checking to make sure there's no rocks, and you got down and you put your shoulder into the side of the horse. You're like, this is how you do it. You bring it up and you scrape. And the first time I did it, like, you have some little reservation of, like, because it is a wild, like, not a wild animal, but it is an animal. It's unpredictable, right? So you have that little bit of nervousness. Well, when you have that reservation and you're feeling that your anxiety is rising, the horse feels it from you as well, right? So it's not gonna be copacetic of what you're trying to accomplish, and it's kind of gonna fight you. So you have to have that trust in you. You have to have that trust within your crew to know you're in good hands. But then also with that horse, like, you have to build that relationship with the horse, of brushing them and putting on the saddle and all that stuff, and you build that bond. I think it's another part of what you guys do is so special, because there's something super therapeutic about it, and it really is, man. And to trust that animal up in the mountains, because we took a lap around Tommy's place the first day, right? And you're just like, wow, this is crazy. Like, this feels difficult. And when you said, you're like, yeah, this is like a 1 out of 10 of what you're gonna be doing, and I'm like, oh my God, like, am I gonna be able to do this? And I'm like, you know what? I've trusted Matson this far, and he hasn't gotten me hurt to this point. Like, I'm gonna trust him. And in that first ride, you truly find out what you're made of. And I always say, like, do hard things. There was always people out there on social media saying, do hard things. It's so true, because I never would imagine of me being able to do a sliver of what I did up there with my ability. That was my first time on a horse, was on it when I came in on Thursday. And like I said, like earlier, like, I'm in the round pen, and you're like, all right, take away the reins, like, you're gonna ride them with just your feet. And Rooster was being a little stubborn, and he kept pushing me up against the fence by Drew, and Drew's like, I'm not gonna save you, Rooster. And I'm like, man, can I do this? But boy, was I wrong. And I impressed myself with how I was able to handle that horse. And that's why I think the trust factor is so huge, and your guys' slogan is just spot on, man.
Yeah, and that's worth giving a little bit more clarity towards. And some people throw stones at our organization because of the way we do things. So what you're talking about might happen 20% of the time, where you have a very competent, athletic, strong person that isn't really aware of balance on a horse, and I don't think that comes naturally. Even if you are put on it at the age of 2, it's like, my kids learned to ski when they could walk,
Right.
and they had insane balance. But the horse is different because it's a living, breathing animal, and there's a fear factor. So when I see, so we should make this disclaimer, like at Ease, Horsemanship is not an equine therapy organization. It's a completely different model and we won't go into it, but equine therapy is very preventative and very structured and very effective. But the population that we serve is different than that. And so when somebody like you is having a problem with their feel between the reins, is what we call it. So the reins connects to the mouth through the bit, through the piece of iron that's in the horse's mouth. And when you start to balance on that, you're cheating it, and you can ride that horse with a center of balance, much like you would ride a skateboard or a surfboard, from your hips down. So when someone like you is doing that, and it keeps without awareness, balancing on the reins with your hand, if I feel like you have a good enough strength and balance, we'll take everything away. We might even take your feet out of the stirrups and just be like, okay, now let's take away everything and move this horse around the round pen with the instructor in charge of the instructor. Even if that horse isn't hooked up, has control of what that horse is on me, not you. So where it's going, what speed, it's hooked up to me. You just have to trust. And we talk about horse logic all the time. The horse will not trust you if it doesn't have a sense that you trust him.
Right.
You have to trust the horse force, because they can pick up on that anxiety, and they'll hunt for it. Like Diaz did it to Chris all the time. He's just like, this guy is not trustworthy, so I'm going to do whatever I want to do because I have to look out for myself.
Yeah.
I don't trust him as a leader or a partner. So when you take away your need to control that horse's head, or forward motion, even though you're asking him to move forward, by balancing on your hands, you're pulling back on him.
Right.
So you're confusing him. You're asking him to do two different things. So it's awareness of what both parts of your body is doing, and awareness of trust.
Yeah.
Like how much trust you actually have in our organization, and our horses, and your relationship with that horse. Because it comes down to, don't sit by that fire and go get a cup of coffee and wait for Juanita's breakfast to come out if you don't trust your horse. Your horse is 50 yards on a high line right over there 24 hours a day waiting for you to build a relationship.
Yeah.
Go build it just like you would with your significant other, your child that's struggling in high school or whatever. Go build that trust so that you can have a healthy relationship.
Yes.
And something as simple and as beautiful as a horse will teach you that.
Amen. And does. And it did. And like, I trusted Rooster. I was like, he got me out of some tough spots. And I was never really worried when I got up there, and you said like how hard it was going up this mountain with all the rocks. And like, truthfully, like I was fine with it because I knew he had my back the whole time, and he was so reliable. And we probably got into a few sticky situations where, I did, my butthole did pucker once or twice, but he and not for 1 second that I know he was going to get me hurt or get me out of that. He got me out of that situation.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So
did.
whenever there's an injury or an accident, 99% of the people involved in those accidents will say, I've got a problem with my horse.
Yeah.
100% of the time, the horse will say, I have a problem with my human. One is right and the other's wrong.
It's the horse is right.
The horse is always right.
The horse is always
In
right.
that situation, the horse is always right.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it'd be different if the horse was trying to ride us.
Yeah.
And trying to figure us out. And trying to figure out our user manual. And they say, oh shit, why'd he kick? There's something wrong with him. And it's like, no, you didn't take the time to understand your horse.
Yeah.
You didn't understand to take the time that he's tired, or he got kicked last night in the herd, or he's not moving right, or your cinch isn't right. It's you. It's your problem. He'll help you identify it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You just got to slow down enough and listen.
Yeah. And I think and too, I think another aspect of it, I know we kind of touched on it, but like you have very special staff. I mean, all the way from Brett, who's running up and down, getting us what we need day in, day out. Or if it's Juanita, literally cooking 5-star meals for us, more, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Or it's Dwayne sharing his wisdom of what he's been through in life and his skillship and with horses. You have to be pretty proud, brother, to assemble the crew that you have assembled.
Yeah, proud and grateful. We have people wanting to join our organization, and again, right now we're at a volunteer state. We're actively pursuing ways to increase our ability to raise money locally, statewide, nationally, so that we can afford to pay people and hire them full time. But what's better than to have an organization that's run by people that are passionate and giving of their time for free because they just want to give back. It's service is their purpose, and that's how this organization was founded.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have an event coming up, right?
Yeah.
When's that happening?
July 15th.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. How can people participate if they want to? We'll touch again
on
this.
Yeah, put it in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to participate or donate on the 15th, how do they do that?
Yeah, so there is an event called YO Gives, and it is a statewide philanthropic event, 24 hours. And it's basically a much larger nonprofit formed this event about 5 years ago, and since then it's raised $20 million for nonprofits across the state. And it basically takes, it leverages the power of all the different organizations coming together, creates a lot of efficiencies, brings a lot more focus to all the organizations. So you have very large charitable foundations that are putting up $1 million for certain benchmarks that you can hit. And encourages people to get matching donors. So for example, right now I think we have 3, almost 4 matching donors. So if we hit $5,000, another 3 donors or 4 will match every dollar for dollar. So anybody that makes a contribution on July 15th, whether it's $10 or $1,000, it's matched 4 times. And our goal is simple. We would like 200 donors at an average of $25 a piece, and that'll help us get halfway to a part-time salary for an executive director. Yeah,
let's go, brother.
Which is somewhere between 25 and 40 grand.
Let's go.
And that's all going to operational resources so that we can. I mean, we were talking about it, I forget, over lunch, about these organizations. Yeah, so organizations that make hats and have 8-month waiting lists.
Yeah.
And why you would do that? Because like if somebody, you go see a person, a hat maker that's exhibiting at an event, and you love their hat and they say it'll be 8 months, it's like, well, why are you here?
Yeah.
Get to making hats, right? And so we could be helping. Right now we've gone from 20 a year to 20 a week. We could be doing 200 a week, but we're not going to put people on a waiting list. We're not going to say come back in 8 months. We need to get better at raising awareness and raising money, which is why Lori put you and I together in the first place.
Absolutely.
We just did a huge event in May with Wyoming PBS where we raised $15,000 to host the whole community to 5-star dining, music, panel discussion on suicidal ideation, stigma, communication, resources, not just within Wyoming, but if Wyoming can get out in front and address its issues with the mental health crisis, we can rather be a symbol of, you know, the tragedy within mental health care. We can be an icon for recovery and post-traumatic growth rather than post-traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic growth. We want people to look for help. We want to identify connectivity and resources. What we often say is we do not want to be catch and release. If I don't ever hear from you, this event doesn't matter. Yeah, you were with us for 5 days. We developed this great connection. You feel good about yourself. Are you good? For how long?
Right.
We want you to have connectivity to us. And we want to be able to put you in touch with people in Illinois or people in Ohio or people in Georgia or people in Nebraska or Kentucky. All these people that you've got connectivity. That isn't, hey, okay, you go talk to so-and-so and all right, I'm going to bill you for that. I don't care.
Right.
I just want you to get the help you need where you get it, and all of it will take care of each other. I believe that.
I agree, brother.
And so this whole, 8-month waiting list, we're going to grow at the speed of trust. We're going to grow so that we can afford to take a week up in the mountains and really connect with people. And also have people go to work for us for the first or second or third time up there and experience something that you're not going to achieve in the average workplace.
Yeah, brother. I think you're achieving. I think you're going to be a staple. I think so. I
hope so.
After experiencing it and the relationships that I've built and the connections that I've had with you and everyone else there, it's definitely going to be something special. And you guys have something special. You talked about lunch, right? What happened to that lunch when we sat down? I think that's something you wanted to bring up, cool. And I think it's something special that people need to hear.
Yeah, we went to one of our favorite spots outside.
Which was phenomenal, by the way.
It was great stuff. We'll plug it, the Wyoming Bar and Grill.
Check it out. You guys will not be disappointed.
Pauline and Cody do an amazing job out there. It's where Juanita is from, and it's just about 25 miles outside of town, if that. And it was busy, and this is ironically July 10th. It's a day of celebration in Sheridan. We celebrate the Western heritage, and we've got rodeo, we've got Native American powwows, and all of town shuts down. And so we decided to take you guys out to Wyoming, and the waitress that's there is obviously having a busy day, busting her butt. Every single table was full, and we just asked her how she was doing, and to her credit, she was like, I'm good, but this just happened to me. And Rosie, and this is a person that her self-care is evident that it's strong, because she could relay she knows us and felt comfortable with you guys. She could relay as a first responder. Ironically, in addition to being a waitress, she's a medic, and she was the first person on the scene of a tragedy over the weekend, and it was a death, and there was a lot of emotion around it, and she needed some understanding, I think, and some distance from it. And we all were just sitting there going, whoa, like, this is what we do. This is what we just did. And she was like, I've got to get up to the mountains with my family, go to the cabin. We're like, amen, go do it. And so what that affirmed more than anything was how prevalent trauma is in our exposure to trauma. Like, she came across somebody that died right in front of her from a tragic accident, and how that is really, really common, and how it's not so common to be able to express yourself to people that you don't know very well. But like we said, like that's the one thing that we really tried to emphasize from the movie, the film, was please connect.
Yeah.
You know, like there's so many great slogans out there on that. There's a lot of great campaigns out there, but the young man that the Wyoming PBS film was about, he was an amazing musician and artist, and he sang about his trials and tribulations, but he died alone. He's from Wyoming. He died alone in a parking lot in Tucson by himself, and he had plenty of loved ones around him. And he couldn't talk. He could sing about it, but he couldn't do what that waitress just did.
Yeah.
Maybe that's our understanding.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. It's real simple. It's awareness, and it's relationship. And part of relationship is the ability to communicate.
Yeah.
You cannot isolate or have social stigma and help yourself.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it from social media and YouTube and all of that stuff. You have to, we are a herd species. We have to be in conversation with each other.
Yeah. I think that's also kind of a good thing to kind of look at and how you treat people, right? Because you don't know what others are going through in life, right? I think that's very important, because she, you know, not saying this would have happened, but, you know, someone else could have came in and maybe an order got mixed up. You don't know what she's been going through in life. And I think that's very important to kind of realize. And when you start to get upset with somebody, take a step back and kind of realize maybe other people have stuff going on in life.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about the trip or camp you kind of want to touch on? Because I really do want to get into your story.
I think the only thing that I can say, I don't know when this is going to come out, but I think we'll have a lot of stuff on our social media that will give the visual, the imagery of all the guys that were involved and the staff, and you know, we'll put a lot of things out there through you, and to look for that. You know, I'm just really proud of all of the participants. You know, we could go into at length on each one of them and what they went through, but your original question was, did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? And absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and the camp, we don't do this every other week. We're at a point where we can only pull this off maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So we have a whole host of other programming that we do. I mean, we're sitting on a farm or a ranch, if you will, that's an amazing agricultural opportunity for our clients, where they can come in and learn all about horticulture, you know, growing their own tomatoes, their lettuce, nutrition, feeding from, you know, hydroponics, using water or using the soil. We really want to get people in touch with farming and regenerative growth and things like that through, and that's new to us as well. So the drop camp is just one component. Speaking of Tommy and, you know, the ranch that we were at on Sunday, that's a board member of ours. You know, he very generously offers his ranch to all of our clients to come out, and he's also happens to be locally one of the top, if not the top, martial art experts in Hapkido, quickly becoming a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu teacher as well. And he has a first-class professional dojo on this 800-acre ranch right at the base of the mountain that people come out and want to learn about, do martial arts camps and things like that. So this is just one experience. It's impossible to go into everything, but yeah. So I think we've covered. What do you think?
I think we crushed it,
Talk
Chris.
enough about Chris and Diaz.
All right, brother. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll jump back into it with you, man. All right, so we're back from break. What I really wanted to touch on really quick, because I think it's really cool, just the historic portion of it, and then just what you guys experience in Sheridan alone, because like we were here for the 4th of July, and then, not to say you guys aren't patriotic, but it was a little bit.
You arrived on the 4th, didn't you?
On the 3rd, and
Crazy.
then so it was a little bit dead the town was. But then when we came back down from the mountains, it was rodeo week, and it was packed. I kind of want to touch on that. So if anyone wants to come out for your guys' drop camp in July, the rodeo week is something very special and something really cool to see too, because then we went to the rodeo, we had dinner there, it was phenomenal, and then to see the relay races, to see those guys riding the horses, wrestling the bulls, was a really cool experience. Do you guys usually go to rodeo week every year?
Yeah, so this is an interesting period in the summer. So Sheridan, Wyoming is way north, almost to the state line with Montana, central. And Sheridan's a relatively big town for Wyoming, which means we're like 20,000 people. And we have a lot of really authentic, smaller ranching towns right around us. So Sheridan does a good job of downplaying the 4th of July so the smaller communities can embrace it and have their own parades. Because I forget the reason why the second week of July is rodeo week, but it's been a celebration for how many years, Juanita? Like 80, 90? A long time.
Long time, yeah.
A long time it's been a celebration, which the week basically runs Wednesday through Saturday and culminates in Friday and Saturday with the big rodeo nights. The national finals for the Indian relay races is huge. Some say it's the world finals. And then there's an amazing parade on, what is today, Friday?
Today's Friday.
Friday morning, that really brings together all the different cultural components of this area and includes the Crow Nation, which is just north of us in Montana. And what? In Polo, yep. And then we went to a powwow today, which was really neat cool. At the Sheridan Inn, and the historic Sheridan Inn. So it's not like if you come and book a retreat week with us or a drop camp week that you're not going to experience the amazing heritage. I mean, there's several museums that honor the crafts and the culture and the heritage of this area, which is just as big on the indigenous side as it is for our own culture. There's so much in the Bighorns and Powder River, and Custer's Battlefield's not far from here. Yellowstone isn't far. The Black Hills in South Dakota isn't far. So we like to cross market a lot of the kind of downtime experiences that you can have. Even the Mint Bar on Main Street, which I'm told you have been a couple times.
We've been a couple times, and it isn't
I'm
disappointing.
going to go there with you tonight. I
will see.
We'll see. The music, everything. So that's something that we really believe in sharing.
Yeah.
You know, that might be on the agenda or the brochure. It might not.
Right.
But count on it. It's just part of our love and respect for this area. I'm relatively new to Wyoming in the last 5 years, but many of our staff are multi-generational residents of Wyoming. So there's a lot with that, and the rodeo last night was pretty awesome. It's a world-class NFR level rodeo. So.
Yeah. Two things I want to touch on before we move on to you. The one thing I thought was actually really special, and it kind of moved me, was you guys saying that you guys did the Pledge of Allegiance. You guys had the national anthem, and you guys did like a group prayer. So it's like you really don't see too much patriotism where I'm from, really? Like in that regards. And it was really cool to see everyone's like proud to be an American. And you really don't see, and you look at the news. I mean, turn on, go on social media, look at the news, and it's like everyone's always hating on America, and you know, being patriotic is kind of frowned upon.
Yeah.
And here you guys embrace it, and I love it so much.
Well, that's interesting that you noticed that, because Wyoming and Alaska and Montana have the highest percentages of veteran populations, like anywhere from 11 to 12%, whereas the national average is like 1%.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's dwindling, obviously.
Yeah.
So 11% in Sheridan, the population of those who have served and continue to is very high here.
Yeah. And the second thing I wanted to bring up was I got my first cowboy hat. and I thought that was pretty special.
That
And I
one?
want to give a shout out to the name of the
High Country Mercantile.
shout out High Country Mercantile.
Denny, he's
Yep.
the best.
Denny, great.
There's a
great
lot of
people.
places you can go to, but Denny hand shapes. He does a good job of showing
Yeah.
up at the rodeo. His family supports us, and they're a fabric of this community for sure.
Absolutely. I wanted to give them a shout out because they're good people.
I hope you're watching.
Yeah, and they treated me very well when I was there. But I want to get into you, man. Let's get into the myth, the man, the legend of Matson. Let's get into your story, man. Where does your story start, brother?
I don't know. It's funny because as much as I really like people to open up, I'm kind of hesitant to share my story. More so because I like to facilitate and not get bogged down in this is my story, and everybody needs to have their own and some version of the path that you've journeyed. And some of my story, like with many trauma victims, it can be between not thinking your story is that significant, or being ashamed of your story, or not being in touch with your story. I think that's very common. So when we bring groups together, it's like, oh, this happened to me when I was 10, and that was 30 years ago. How significant could that be? Versus you just lost everything in a tsunami, or your second wife just died of cancer. These are common stories. Or you were first on the scene to your wife's car accident, and you were an EMT. And your story, and Juanita's story, and Dwayne's story, and so there's that, like, not feeling like your story measures up. So you don't feel compelled to share it in a group format. Versus mine, which is like, wow, how can I be a leader of this organization and have a story that is so messed up? Like, people can't possibly believe that this could truly happen. And so maybe I'll just share versions of it.
All right.
And I honestly have never shared the whole story, and I don't intend to on this podcast, but it's something that will come out over time and is my journey. And I think I am effective as a person with a mission to help others. I think I'm effective to the extent that I share my story. I don't think it's bound to how much I share. I'm not on the mountain preaching and all of that stuff. And like, there's guys that have documentaries about them, and they can go deep into their story and really delve deep, and then that's how they get their big following. And there's some that are just silent leaders, and I think I'm somewhere in between. But I think the gist of my story is it's ongoing. Like, I haven't figured out a way to stay clear of crisis or chaos for more than 5 to 7 years at a time. It just seems like every several years I have something pop up that really tests me to the very core of my fabric and requires me to take certain actions and measures to stay balanced.
Okay. Yeah, man. I mean, that's so. I've said this before on the podcast, and I've said it numerous times, and I'm going to keep saying it. Everyone has a journey in life, and what you go through is something that you learn, right? And you can take each moment that happens to you, and you can take it the one way, or you can take it the other way, right? You can take it in a positive way, you can take it in a negative way. I think what we go through in life shapes us to who we are as an individual, and builds our path, and how we overcome it is very powerful. So you don't have to get into the weeds of your story, and I totally respect that, and I'm not going to push you in that direction whatsoever. But what kind of pushed you then, right? So for you, what kind of pushed you towards kind of starting at Ease, right? So it's
Hmm.
probably some of the things that you went through in your life and experienced in your life. What is a
Yeah.
kind of a big moment that really kind of pushed you towards starting at Ease?
Um, I have had various attempts at it, partnerships with other people, apprenticing, for other organizations, starting horsemanship trauma programs for other recovery centers. And I've always struggled with the way other people do it and approach it,
Mm-hmm.
and you really deal personally with people in crisis. So I would say that goes back at least 12 to 15 years. Um, I did have a very challenging upbringing. On the surface, it would have looked really normal. Um, it's a hard one for me to talk about because
Mm-hmm.
I love my father, and he'll probably listen to this hopefully before he dies, which he is struggling right now with ALS at the age of 90. Um, and that's a big part of my story, is not having a complete reconciliation with him, and I won't have that uh, complete. And it might be complete for him, but it's not complete for me.
Right.
And that's a whole subject of its own. But a very difficult upbringing. Um, if you had asked him, he would say the opposite, that we got everything that we needed. But um, there were a lot of challenges there that were traumatizing, that created a imbalance in my head and made me very much a kind of guy that was always in flight, um, always trying to master things so that I wouldn't um, be caught off guard, and whether I'd be punished or uh, emotionally challenged or what have you. You know, and this is a classic thing, when you're the son of a father that you love and respect, you can't
Yeah.
imagine that this is abusive.
Yeah.
Um, we have gotten to the point where he will acknowledge that it was a very difficult way of bringing his sons up. And as a consequence, both of us have manifested pretty significant mental challenges that have been pathologized beyond just PTS to, whether it's it doesn't matter what the label is. You have your own path around that, and um, so that's the baseline. But I was brought up to be, just an athlete, a warrior, a victor. We just succeeded. We outran everything, and I managed that, as did my brother, until like our 20s or 30s, where I think our tanks just started to fill up with how much we could really suppress.
Yeah.
Like we were very gifted intellectually and physically, and but our confidence didn't measure up to that, because we were always taught that we were failures.
Yeah.
And we were taught that failures, to fear failure. So inevitably we feared it so much we succeeded at all costs. And that can be a successful way of raising young men. But also, if you have vulnerabilities psychologically or emotionally, you're not going to come out of that intact.
Yeah.
And neither one of us came out of it intact. We didn't suffer by the standard sense of that, but we definitely had a lot of breakdowns that started to catch up to us in our early 30s, both of us. And for me, I started to self-medicate, because I got used to just running at a pace that nobody could keep up, whether it was athletics, or endurance or mountaineering or cowboying or whatever. I was always out running people, and I just stayed ahead of it. I had houses, I had success in business, I had success in family. Outwardly, I could tell myself I was a success. And then I remember I started having panic attacks out of nowhere. And they would show up in the morning when I was just going about a routine day, and I would just have no idea how to go forward.
Yeah.
Like I just lost it. It was like a brain fog or a hangover, a mental hangover. And you know, I would shut the bathroom door and I'd throw up in the big, you know, bathtub that we had in our master bedroom. And if my wife caught me, I would say something, you know, and then I would, you know, like I told you, I would jump on a plane with everything I needed for a meeting, and then I'd realize I had forgot to pack a change of clothes.
Yeah.
I was just totally disconnected, and I'd have to land and go shopping for a suit to make a presentation to a big client, and something was falling apart. And my first marriage, we have three beautiful children now in their 20s, but at that point they were 5, 3, and 1, and I was falling apart. And I'd never met with a psychiatrist or anything like that. I had no idea what was prevalent in my family as far as mental dispositions. And I remember we were living in Boulder, Colorado, and one way that I dealt with my demons is I either ran like 4 hours a day, or I rode my bike like 8 to get it out of my system, so that I could be calm enough to be patient with people that mentally weren't moving at my pace.
Right.
Which sounds terrible, but for people that have suffered from manic type dispositions, it's real, and you have to put yourself in a place where you're that challenged that it balances you out. And I remember we had our first appointment with a psychiatrist, and my wonderful wife of several to 10 years at that time made it, and it was right in Boulder, Colorado. And I was working at a medical technology company outside of Boulder, and I rode my bike 1.5 hours to work every morning. Then I rode at lunch, and then I rode home just to get it out of my system. So when I had the meeting, I rode into town, but I rode 3 different canyons, like 2,000 feet in vertical. And all these people that knew me in Boulder thought I was crazy because I could just go forever. I would never get tired. And I showed up at the doctor's office, and he was a cyclist as well. And he said, "Oh, you rode from work. What route did you go?" And I said, "Oh, I went up El Dorado, and then I went up left hand, and then I came down Flagstaff." And he goes, "We have a problem." He goes, "I know you're not. We have a problem."
Yeah.
As I'm changing and I'm naked in his office, getting into my work clothes and not really realizing the inappropriateness of it all. And
Right.
And after it, he said, he goes, "If you don't acknowledge the fact that you're massively bipolar, you're going to be divorced. You're going to be without a job, and you're going to have no idea who you are within 2 to 3 years."
Yeah. And was he correct?
I said, "Fuck you. You can't do that in one session."
Yeah.
Was he correct? All of those things came true.
Yeah.
And I had to confront that.
How was that?
Yeah, it was. Anybody that gets handled, a label like that, whether it's anxiety or depression or any of these labels, they're really hard because there isn't a cure for it. You don't want to admit that that's really what's wrong with you. I had a father that embraced all of those personalities and did very well in life as a medical physician, medical professor, university, and that's what we wanted to be like. We wanted to run 1,000,000 miles a minute and be able to manage everything with our hair on fire, and then when everything crashed, just be like, go hide until it goes away. You know, there's movies about it and my brother and I both had a hard time accepting that the reality was a medical route out, and adjusting our careers and our lifestyles to be something that was more manageable, that didn't push us to those perimeters of manageability. And that went on for quite a while, and there was just a lot of denial.
Yeah.
And I ended up losing it all.
So recognition.
Because I ended up losing it all, and it wasn't that my wife at the time said, "You have to do this, or I'm leaving you."
Right.
It was me saying, "I can't believe you think that's who I am.
Yeah.
I'm leaving you. You're kidding me. You think that I have this problem. You have a problem.
Yeah.
I'm leaving you. If you really think that this is the path for me, going, you know, hospitalizations, figuring out medications, resigning from jobs that have you traveling all over the world and high pressure stuff, and having to manage the financial responsibilities that come with that lifestyle, and giving all that up," I just said, and it was all part of the it was all symptomatic. You know, it was a total confrontation of, this is real. So I went through, I did have one really traumatic intervention that resulted in hospitalization against my will. That was basically brought about by me being of risk to myself and others.
Okay.
That was very hard to manage.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
At your age, about 35. And yeah, I was in denial for years about it. And I just self-medicated, managed it, and then it became, well, you either take the medications, see the doctors, or you will no longer have any custody.
Oh man, that's tough.
Yeah. And that was a tough one because I had never had any risks as a father. Being a dad, as you know, was the most important thing to me. My children were, you know, and we were going through a massive divorce for many reasons. And when that became front and center, I was like, you got to be kidding me. You can't dictate how I manage this.
Right.
But they could.
Sorry, brother.
And so that happened, and, you know, compounded by, you know, that was all in like, you know, 2007, 2008, 2009. And then I finally got on the bandwagon. I had a reckoning. I read a book called The Unquiet Mind by an interesting Dr. K. Redfield Jameson, who was a chief of psychiatry at both from UCLA to Johns Hopkins, and she self-diagnosed herself with bipolar 1, which is the manic disposition.
Yeah.
As a physician at a teaching institution. And so she went through this whole process of basically taking an inventory of all the times you've had episodes where you kind of lost track of who you are. And so these would look like, you know, trips, like acid trips for many people that just, you know, trip on LSD or pills or whatever, and you're gone for maybe 72 hours. But an episode with bipolar or depression or mania can last weeks to months. And so it was explained to me that the more that you have is like a match in a matchstick, and you only have so many to burn.
Right.
And so I got on the bandwagon and figured it out.
What are the steps you took?
A lot of a big quest to find a doctor that I could trust. A lot of research. My brother my brother was he was an incredible athlete and an incredible scholar. He went to Harvard and then Harvard Medical School, and then his breakdown cost him his tenure at Harvard Medical School, and he cracked and had to do the same thing. And so I saw his lesson, but interestingly enough, that happened about 4 years before me, and I never knew about it.
He never shared.
The family never shared it. And that's a whole nother dynamic, but that tells you like the stigma. Like I was successful. I had kids. I was living out west and living the dream, and he had just fallen apart as a amazing student athlete at undergrad at Harvard and then medical school, and he cracked, and nobody in the family said anything about it.
How'd that make you feel?
Afterwards, really upset, because I was like, how could I not know? But the whole thing is symptomatic. I was absorbed in my own life and my own kids, and I had 1 or 2 boys at the time, and I was absorbed, and he was struggling, and I was like, whatever, figure it out. We're both fighting our own battles, and he couldn't come to me and tell me what he was dealing with, and my father couldn't concede that he was the golden child, that he had finally cracked too under all the pressure, and now we were both down and out. So long story long, I kind of took hold of it, and had good custody of the kids, 3 kids at the time, and I'm sure looking back on it, there was a lot of stuff that I suppressed that I will never be able to untangle, because it was pushed so far away. And even in that process of the reckoning and the starting over and leaving her the house and everything, and watching her develop a new life, and then feeling very alone and afraid, and ashamed at breaking up the family, still making quite a bit of money working in technology and medical and healthcare, and ironically all in neurosciences and the brain. So that was my passion, is understanding the brain, and my brain is falling apart. And after a couple years of having my feet on the ground, walking away from a nice home and a nice lifestyle in Boulder, Colorado, I bought this big turn-of-the-century home about 45 minutes up the mountain, where I could ride my bike up the canyon just once. Just once.
Just the one time?
Yep, just nice and easy, no race.
Baby steps, right?
Right, baby steps.
Baby steps.
And I could be away from that rush of it all. And turn of the century was like the 1900 gold rush era home that I renovated with my partner at the time, and put so much, and it just was this amazing little holler of a community, like, is the best word for it. It was just this little tiny community above Boulder called Salina, right below Gold Hill, and it was heaven. And I started to come back around, and I started to accept a new pace, and not needing to be on a plane. It was well before the horse came into my life, and not needing to be the master of the universe, and to be told by everybody how great I am and this and that. And I just settled in and started to learn about horses and mountaineering and wilderness, and just, the kids loved it. They were up there half the time. And then the defining event happened in September of 2010 on Labor Day. A massive wildfire blew through that part of Colorado, and in 2 weeks decimated the whole area. And we left like it was an earthquake.
Yeah.
There was no reverse 911s. There were no, and I've told this story on some podcasts, I'll be short about it. There were no evacuations. There was no signal up there.
Right.
You just saw the massive exodus of your canyon neighbors coming off the mountain in every direction on a holiday. which, like, if you were to see this on the 4th of July, you'd be like, oh, people are just going to visit family. It's cool. Remember when we were riding, I said it smells like smoke?
Yeah.
Same. I have a very sensitivity. I was like, high sensitivity. I said, it smells like smoke. Oh, that cloud is not normal.
Yeah.
And then it just went boom. The sky, the ceiling fell, and it was like, shit, this is a wildfire. And they hadn't really started being that prolific in Colorado back in 2010. And I had 3 kids. Sorry, I had 4. I just had our son was 6 months old with my new partner, and she had 2 kids, so we had 6 kids to get off the mountain quickly. And long story short, I was in charge of just, you're not thinking you're going to lose everything. You're just like, all right, this is an inconvenience.
Right.
We're gone for a couple days tops, and then we'll get back up here and sort out the ashes. So I ran into the house after we were trying to figure out what was going, and we were on the steep wall of the canyon. We had 30 steps leading up to our house. By the time I got all the way to the top of the steps, the house was in smoke. And I couldn't see anything inside, so I ran into the laundry room and just went through the washer and dryer and grabbed all the clothes that were in there and just ran off with that. That was what we had, and we never saw our house again. Never saw anything.
Oh man.
So that was the event that changed the narrative of everything. Like nothing I had come to believe, even after accepting my health limitations, I no longer trusted anything.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a deal breaker. It dropped me to my knees.
I was gonna say, because I mean, it seemed like you were making strides.
Yeah.
And it seemed like things were finally falling into place for you, and you were recognizing things in yourself that you were working on, and making those steps towards kind of healing yourself. And then this happened. How was that afterwards, the aftermath?
It started off to be the normal thing where it's just like, I got this.
Yeah.
And I remember exactly, my partner at the time took half the kids up the canyon and then ran into a wall of fire and had to turn back around and ended up in town. And then we just guessed that, she's 21 miles below in town, and that's where we're going to go with the boys. And I remember the same exact thing. The mentality is, got this, no big deal. I'm a mountain man. You're not going to take this away from me. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to rebuild. And I went full manic mode. It didn't even matter. Like, you can be fully medicated and still go full manic.
Yeah.
Full send. And just, bam, all of a sudden, wheels are off. Which you really have to fight to keep that from happening. You have to recognize the warning signs when your chemistry, because your chemistry lives for that shit.
Yeah.
Like, it lives for the challenge of getting something to get really amped up about. And there were so many things to figure out with insurance, and so what happens is you end up just being a nuisance. Nobody can stand you because you're talking too fast. You think you have all the answers. You're not sleeping, and so I was right back into like full casualty mode. And I don't even remember how long it took, but I'm again with a whole new relationship, and I lost it all again there completely.
So when did you start to kind of get a grip back onto it, of recognizing where you were? At what point did that happen?
At least 3 years. So I retired early. I took disability, then retired at like 42 after trying to work it out for 2 years and knowing everybody was taking pity on the situation, and I just was not myself anymore. And so it was no longer like, all right, and I never really studied PTS at the time. And I started to study it because I knew it had a hold on me. And I self-admitted to several programs and really started to, I studied impermanence, letting go, surrendering, Buddhist mentalities. And, I did everything, and I had enough money at the time that I could take a couple years off and work on myself. Um, and that just started kind of a nomadic period of life where I was just searching, like everything that, like you'll relate to this. I've seen you talking to your son on the phone. Um, I had an office, a home office. I had a library that was covered and filled with mementos from my kids. My whole office walls were all covered with children's art, and I had hundreds of journals that I had kept and books that I loved. And who cares about the furniture and the clothing and all of that stuff? You can get all of that back,
Right.
That's but it was the stuff that you just you realize how connected you are to those things.
Yeah.
And the shame of and then there was the shame of putting your family in a place of exposure where it could have been really bad.
Right.
And that's ridiculous because it's a natural disaster, and it just happened. So yeah, that took up a good part of my 40s, early 40s. And definitely made me who I am right now. The resiliency, the awareness that you're never out of the woods, you're never out of the fight. And that's why it's very easy for me when I'm working with people to be very humble and transparent, because the table could be turned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any given moment, I might, you're not in control of tragedy, of crisis. You can manage a lot of things. You can manage taking on too much, your health, your nutrition, all of those things you have to manage, but you can't account for something out of left field that can totally turn you upside down.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
Man, so then what was your steps after that? So after Boulder, where did you go? What was your next move?
I jumped around a lot. That's where I really started to get into, I kind of wanted I kind of felt like the mountains had betrayed me.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like Colorado had spit me out, and I just wanted out. And that's when I first started to just like take flight to like Canada and Montana and New Mexico and Wyoming, and looking for answers, and deserts and prairies and horses and wild horses. And I was just, I just kind of stepped away. I stepped away from all of my responsibilities and went in search of meaning and just answers, just balance. Just I was lost, and I went through a period of I'd find connection in one place, one little town, and then it would fall apart. I couldn't find home, and I really for almost a decade never felt like I was grounded. And as you can imagine, I went through some pretty difficult treatments, and it's why I am such a crusader for mental health, because I was treated very poorly, and the closest to me were my ex-wives. They saw it, and it shattered them that this could possibly be the way that you treat this issue of psychotic complex PTSD. Like you're not coming back around. Like what's going on? Who are you? What happened?
Yeah.
And that wasn't just the fire, and it wasn't all. It was a composite of everything. It's like when we start working with combat veterans, it's never like, all right, what just happened in Iraq?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's what just happened. Now let's go back 18 years.
Yeah, what's the precursors?
Why did you go to Iraq? What was going on? What did you hope that you could run away from or accomplish that would get rid of that part of your life?
Yeah.
It's rarely the last thing that happened to you. It's the aggregation of everything. It's kind of like, I think you have to have this acceptance that life can throw whatever it wants to throw at you. I mean, this. Like, you shouldn't be sitting here.
Right.
And I actually shouldn't be either.
Right.
I have a police officer in Livingston, Montana to thank for my life because of the decision that he made for me out of grace. And you have a completely different story, but you don't have control. So that can be very liberating, but it can also be terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially once you've had to handle what you have to handle, a health crisis, and then now you have to deal with it. You have to take whatever you need to take, or you have to make whatever adjustments, and it's hard. There are not many people that know the prescriptions that I take. She does. There's not many people that know how many. And it's just what I have to do to stay healthy. But that still doesn't guarantee you a hall pass.
Right.
And you can look back and see when you make critical decisions. I changed this or that because of the problems that you had afterwards. But I am definitely a man of faith, and when my life is full of prayer and dependency upon God, I am a lot more balanced and carefree and accepting. And I think that's one of the most critical things. But when you're moving fast and your schedule's full, like last week, we took prayer. We took time for prayer every day. Yeah, and every single person in that circle was like, "Yep, you're part of this." And we set out, like, for me, that's really my responsibility. All you guys, like, I couldn't even count how many guys were horseback. I mean, we looked like a platoon.
We did.
We really did. Like, we got encountered by that one group of people when we were watering our horses, and they were like, "What is this?" Because we were all cowboyed out, and it just looked like the magnificent 7x3. Way too many guys riding horses.
It was cool to see, though. Do you want to go into the police officer in Montana, or do you want to move on from there?
No, that one's not so much relevant. I mean, what got me here, though, in Wyoming, was a similar experience. I was grounded, very similar to before the fire. I was in a wonderful relationship. My custody was great. I had two younger boys at the time that are now 16 and 14, and at the time they were 12 and 10 or 11 and 9 or something like that. And building life, and in a new area in northwestern Colorado. And I was not in a healthy relationship in the sense that there was love between the two people, but there was way too much mutual trauma. And that's a really tough thing to take a look at when you are attracted to a person because of their story. And so it's either one of two things, like they're such a survivor that they can handle you, or you're such a survivor that you think that you can live codependently upon them.
Right.
And if it isn't completely mutual and expressed, like, what's going on here, like this is what I deal with, this is how it comes up, this is how it shows up. Now let me see yours, and let's see if the combination is manageable on top of love. I think it's a recipe for disaster. I think people that have really complex trauma stories should be very very cautious about getting in a relationship with somebody else so that isn't, you know, none of us are ever really whole.
Right.
We're fighting every day. And she was fighting every day too. She lost her husband years before in a tragic avalanche. And I don't think you ever recover from that. And I know that I'll never recover from what I went through.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's any easier with a person that is perfect and has had a beautiful life. And, you know, they have to have a reservoir for understanding trauma and mental health.
Yeah.
And I can just say that for me, that relationship got very complicated when we both became very needy, and it just blew.
Yeah.
And the kids were in the middle of it, and I just found myself in another place that felt like, wow, everything's on fire. And I won't go into detail as to like how that was like literally like it felt like that, but everything was on fire. It was not safe for me to stay where I was, and I made a decision in 2022, early 2022, like March, that I was gonna take another exodus and go to Wyoming and Montana and just take some time and get another ranch job and just decompress. And the kids were handled with their mom, and the relationship broke, and I ended up taking a job on a reservation in western Wyoming training mustangs, which is something I loved, and I took refuge in them. I was working in a sanctuary, and we had contracts with BLM and like Basque sheep herders. Like we would train horses for them and send them out, but it was ridiculous. Like I was working with 8 to 12 mustangs a day, and just totally distracting myself with that work and the heroic nature of it when I was just totally at risk every single day of getting killed.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I was balanced enough to know that that wasn't healthy work for me as a 50-year-old man, to think that I could be like, you know, a mythical movie star training all these horses, like all the pretty horses, you know, like Matt Damon and those dudes. And just that image that you have of all that, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And as luck would have it, I left that job and went back to Colorado for a weekend and balanced myself out with the kids and looked at really what I needed. And I was like, you know, I felt something there. I need to still be remote and away from Colorado to figure it out. I just knew there was something out there, and I saw the position advertised in the paper for the Bighorn range riding job, taking care of 300 pairs in the Bighorn wilderness, riding a permit basically for a ranch out of Buffalo, Wyoming. And I was like, I can do that. And the only thing was like, do you have the horsemanship abilities, and can you work in isolation for 4 to 5 months at a time? And I was like, perfect.
Right up your
I'm
alley.
going to isolate. That's the answer to my problems. Yet I was surrounded by the wilderness and all of these. I just, it was biblical. I was like, I'm a shepherd.
Right.
I just wanted to be a shepherd.
Right.
And there were parts of it that were absolutely ridiculous. And there were parts of it that I can guarantee you a very small percentage of people will ever experience. Being able to manage that. I was off the grid for 4.5 months from May until the end of May until the end of September. And that's where I learned that country. And I remembered, I was definitely lost, but I knew that I was working towards something, and I was working it out in myself still. The reckoning that had come from the fire, that I needed the isolation. I need to step away from all of the other things, and that can be perceived as being very self-serving or selfish, but for me it was survival. I wanted my kids to be proud of me, and we've talked about it since we've known each other and up in the mountains, like the cultural differences of somebody that comes in from outside of Wyoming to manage that type of responsibility and not being a proven entity, and how you can do that. And I did it successfully for months and months, and that was kind of the origin of At Ease, was my transformation up there with the horses, with the dogs. This very dog was there. There's several horses out there that were with me. And it was so spiritual and so transformative that I was like, this is somehow what I want to share with other people. I didn't necessarily know how that was going to take shape. But I had a sense that if I could just stay healthy, and figure it out. And I knew at that point I wanted to stay in Wyoming. And it started to take shape.
Found home.
Yeah, found home. This is home.
This is home, brother.
Yeah, and it really just, we've told this story through other podcasts as well. It started with one guy. I met this young man about your age, and we started a friendship, and he confided in me with things that he was suffering from, and I was like, I got just the horse you need to meet, and I got just the place you need to go. And he was like, sign me up. And we've done a whole podcast on that with Gabriel, and musician in Nashville. He grew up in Buffalo, Wyoming, and moved to Nashville, and trying to become a recording musician and dealing with that. Very talented guy, coming back and forth. And the beginning of the organization came from our relationship. And he's still a part of the organization. He's now married and expecting his first child, and just so proud of him and the success that he's had. And that's the thing. Like, I definitely haven't told that story on tape, because the natural inclination is, that was 2022 and now you're good? Really?
Yeah.
You think you're good? And if I were to be asked that question, I'd be like, no, are you?
Right.
Really? Oh, well, I've gotten through it several times.
Right.
2023, you almost had your head shot off.
Yeah.
You're good? Really? How are you good? Well, why do you really have to prove that? It's like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm showing up and I'm doing this kind of work because I have a purpose. Like, I know there have been many people that were accountable for me and stepped forward and helped make me who I am after that fire and after that exodus and after all those things. And I want to be that person for other people.
Yeah. It's beautiful, man.
It's as simple as that. And I can't claim to be tip top.
No, because healing's not linear.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
You're going to have ups and downs. That's just how you
Right.
bounce back from it. Yeah.
And we saw it with Dwayne. It's the transparency of it. It's like, this shit happens.
Yeah.
It can happen to anybody. It can happen 3 and 4 times before you figure it out. Sometimes it's your fault and sometimes it isn't. It's how you handle it.
Right.
That makes a difference.
Yeah.
And I don't take any of it for granted. Juanita'd be the first one to say, this comes easy to Matson. It does not come easy to me. I work my ass off to try to make sure that there's no casualties, and that people enjoy it, and that it's relatively seamless. And if somebody doesn't, it really weighs on me, because I want that experience for them, for you.
It shows, brother. It does. It really does show.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. A message for somebody who's struggling. I know that's a very broad question, but what are some concrete things that really helped you, or things that you've learned along your journey? What would you share with them?
Well, fear is a big part of it. Particularly, so there's trauma. The video that you just sent me the other day, Cover Me Up by Morgan Wallen.
It's a good one.
There you go. It's like the woman's looking at her husband going, who are you? What happened?
Yeah.
That's real. And you just have to find those people in your life that you can lean on. They say 3 to 5. 3 to 5 people. That's a lot. But if you can find 2 to 3 key relationships that you can bear all, let them into your medicine cabinet and be okay with it.
Yeah.
And also be like, well, fuck this medicine. Like, I don't want to depend upon it. Can you help me? Can we find a way together so that it's safe? And be realistic about it. Medicine is a metaphor. It's not just pills. It's your prescription for life. You have to acknowledge that this is a real thing that impacts almost everybody.
Yeah.
In many different ways. So, as somebody that's struggling with it, we see it every day. Whether it's your mother, or your brother, or your best friend that calls out for you and says he needs help. Or asking yourself, being willing to ask for help and to find a mentor that can help guide you through it. And that's what we try to be, is peers and guides through it. You have to have that. It's too difficult to manage in our system to do it alone.
Yeah.
I had this, he's just now retiring. I had the same doctor from 2005 into 2026. And I might talk to him twice a year, but he was there when I needed him. And it might be something as simple as like, Juanita saw this like a couple nights in a row. And I've never been able to sleep. Never. I always had to take stuff. And all of a sudden I'm not sleeping. And I was like, something's off. Like, did I forget to take my medicine to sleep? And I woke up and I looked at the bottle and it was right. And then I called my doctor and he's like, that's the wrong manufacturer. So it was a generic and they switched manufacturers on me. Should not matter.
Right.
But he was dead on right because he knew me that well. And so that's how exposed you are. Like,
Yeah.
you could leave for, a week and be like, shit, I got what's going on?
Yeah.
And sleep is your anchor, as is your gut. Like, you think it's just your head, but it's your whole body. It's holistic.
Yes.
So we work with that. So my advice would be find an organization, find your relationships for people that can help you through this, because it's lonely.
Is that the same advice you'd give to your younger self? Knowing who you are, knowing what you went through, everything you've been through?
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky to have that. I can remember, I don't really remember why I was so against that diagnosis. I just didn't want to be diagnosed with anything.
You think it was like a pride thing?
I just didn't want to have a problem.
Yeah.
I was outrunning it.
Yeah.
And I remember the first guy that called me and was like, don't be afraid of this. This is manageable.
Yeah.
And I didn't know him, but he was a friend of my sister's. He's like, this is manageable. All you got to do is this, and you'll be fine. You don't have a death sentence.
Right.
You just need to make a couple changes.
Perspective.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how big or how small it is. I mean, it's just one step at a time.
Yeah.
If you can't take it day by day, take it hour by hour, take it minute by minute.
Yeah.
It's awesome, buddy. Anything else you want to share before we get Chris on?
Yeah, I mean, we have veterans that come to our properties every week, and we're constantly looking for anecdotes and lessons to share with them, and they're in treatment. They're coming from residential programs at the VA, and one of the first things we always focus on is gratitude. You can always find something to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
And like for me, I walk this dirt road, sometimes by myself, sometimes with Juanita, sometimes with participants, and we just talk about the simple things that you can be grateful for.
And you don't have to look very far.
You don't. And then when you ground yourself with gratitude, you're present.
Yeah.
Versus if you've just got the whirl of this is what's wrong, and I go through it every day, and I have people like Juanita in my life that would be like, you're tripping on that.
Yep.
You're tripping on his inefficiencies or their inability to show up for you or to meet your expectations.
Because what can you control?
Yeah.
You can only control yourself.
Yeah. So gratitude and presence are the big. They're just very. I'm not going to say they're easy, but they're accessible. And there's a million and one resources for working on that, and all the different little tips, little things that you can purchase to help you record all that stuff. And it's just it's a good way to start your day.
And I think Eddie's is really mastering that just with everything you guys offer. If it is just your Wednesday calls, or you have your group calls, or if it's coming out for a day, or if it is being able to have the opportunity to be in a drop camp for 3 or 4 days or what have you, you do practice presence and gratitude when you are disconnected like that.
Yeah. In combination with just the awareness around life is going to throw the stuff at you that it's going to throw, and we grow more through the challenges than we do the conquests.
Amen, brother. Yeah. If people want to donate, where do they go? If they want to help support your guys' mission.
At easehorsemanship.com.
And then when's this event?
Or call. Put my number on your thing. Call
Absolutely.
us. We're still small enough. We've got, shameless plug, the event coming up on July 15th. Go to our website for information on that. Make a donation to us at yogives.com, and it is quintupled or quadrupled. It's quadrupled. We have matching donors that make it quadrupled, and we really appreciate.
Yeah, if you want to make a big
support,
bang,
even if it's $10.
Yeah, if you want to make a big bang for your buck.
Yeah, big bang for your buck, helping us, and we're we have become a national organization. So if you're in Illinois and you think that this isn't going to help somebody there, talk to Dominic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Reach out. I'll make sure all that information's in the description on all platforms.
Awesome.
And I'm excited, brother. I'm excited for you. I'm very happy for what you guys are doing for mental health in general. It doesn't have to be for first responders. It doesn't have to be for vets. I think there's a crisis going on.
Yeah. And I'll tell you too, like, it doesn't feel good to unload it.
Yeah.
Like, don't always just feel like it's going to feel good to unload it, because it's complicated. And even for me to unload it right now, it's like, it doesn't necessarily feel good, but it is part of the process.
Yeah.
And it's acceptance, and you will see the people that come to you in your life because of your authenticity. That's what feels good.
Absolutely. And I think being able to see the growth as well, I think is huge. I knew you're helping a lot of people. I know you helped more than just the 5 people that showed up this week. It's I think everyone involved got a little something out of it, at bare minimum.
Yeah, for sure. We all did. I did. Everybody did every day.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing.
Well, it's been an honor to meet you and everyone in your organization. And it's an honor to call you a friend.
Feel the same way. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Chris, you ready?
Hot seat.
Buddy, so we just spent a good amount of time together in this past week. In the mountains, out of the mountains, at the rodeo, riding horses, you riding Diaz next to me with Rooster. How was the whole experience for you in general?
Oh,
Or first of all, what was your expectations coming into this event?
I thought, you know, I've been camping when I was little. I thought it was gonna be just a little backpack, little baby horse trails. I've been on some horse trails in Texas, but like nothing at this degree. Something you just narrow little creek, narrow little trail, something easy.
Yeah.
Maybe a child could do it, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Nah, dude, this is like I can't put it into words. It's just unbelievable. Um, it's awesome. It's like Matson said, and you said you can't even put it into words. You just have to be there to experience it. Just incredible views, incredible the connections I made, the brotherhood, the just being there, being grounded. You can't think about anything else but just you, your horse,
Yeah.
the guy in front of you, and the view. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
What were your expectations going into it, man? Like, is there something that you wanted to work on for yourself? And did you accomplish that during that time?
Oh yeah, I wanted to get it away from the work, personal problems, the noise in my head,
Yeah.
the vices. Yeah, definitely accomplished that. Well, not fully, but I got grounded and clear vision.
Yeah. What are a few things that you learned about yourself while out there, man?
I learned that I don't need social media. I don't need to be perfect, you know. I don't need to fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be yourself.
Yeah, man. Because I feel like you and I had a few kind of deeper conversations about perspective or how we're viewed by others, right? Like wearing something, right? So something as simple as like an outfit,
Yeah.
right? Like you were worried about your shirt. You're like, man, this shirt's too much. This shirt's too much. It's too loud. And I'm like, no, dude, you look good. Like, let's rock this thing. And then what happened? I want you to tell me a little bit what happened. How many people came up to you
Oh,
during that whole? We went to the rodeo, right? How many people came up to you and said, dude, how sick is that shirt?
3, 4, 4 gals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know. I was doubting myself, and I was like, "Is this too much? Am I going outside of the line? Like, should I just be more quiet, more subtle?" But no, yeah, you're right. I should just let go.
Just let go.
Just
man.
let go.
It's a beautiful thing when you do. It's so freeing when you stop worrying about what other people think about you or how you're perceived by others. Because it doesn't matter what other people think. Only thing that truly matters in life is what Chris thinks, how you view yourself in life in general.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So when you met everybody the first night, what were you thinking? Like meeting Tim, meeting Drew, meeting Jacob, myself.
Uh,
Because I remember seeing you when you first checked in. I was like, I think that's the guy, but I don't want to like walk up to you and be like, hey, yo, Chris, is that you? And not being it. But what was going through your mind? Like kind of meeting everybody, meeting Matson for the first time in person, who's larger than life. That's
Yeah.
as cowboy as it gets over
yeah,
there.
you can't see Matson through, like how tall he is through the camera, but this dude's like almost 7 feet. No, I had a little bit of fear, you know, being a little green. Just knowing that I'm gonna be around real cowboys, uh, guys that do this for a living. Uh, just yeah, a lot of fear going into this, but total opposite.
Yeah. What's one moment that kind of sticks out the most to you during this trip?
Just being out in the mesa, just out there in the peak and the trail, just hearing nothing but just the birds, the wind glide through the pine trees. Yeah, just hearing the water flow through the creek.
Oh, isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, Like just not worrying about your phone or work, a due date. You know, you got to do this, you got to do that. You got to wake up early for Monday, Tuesday, you know, just getting ready for the week. No, it's just you, your horse, and your buddies out in the trail, sitting around the campfire, talking about life. Yeah. Not needing music, you know, we didn't listen to music. Maybe what a couple minutes when we were in the trail, but just barely. It was very quiet. I was impressed like that we don't need all this other stuff, you know,
The
like
noise.
the noise, the movies, the series, like all this. Yeah.
So you talk about the horse, right? And I saw the relationship you've developed with Diaz throughout this whole trip. How was that for you?
Uh, very, very cool. Something that I learned is like horses are just. I told you this, Matson. Horses are just magnificent, beautiful, strong, smart animals, but they also have a lot of fear. Um, it's incredible just building that bond with this animal and knowing that it has its own personality, you know.
Right.
Each horse is different. Your horse is different from Rooster is different from Diaz, from Sundown, and just being around him, being on him, recognizing his personality. And I was telling you this. I think that me and Diaz, we're alike. We're always kind of like moving around. We're always wandering and looking at what's going on over
A
here.
little ADD action.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, we can't stay still. We always gotta be moving. Yeah, that's something that it's unbelievable, dude.
To build off that, kind of how was it kind of to part with Diaz and kind of say your goodbyes? Did you
Ooh.
have that moment with him?
Yeah, it was. I didn't think I was gonna get emotional, but tacking him up for the last time, and did you pony him up
I
down?
ponied him out, yeah.
Yeah, you pony him down to the trailer. I couldn't ride him out. I had to drive my truck down. But just knowing that I'm gonna tacking him up for the last time I got a little emotional. Um, he rested his head on my chest, and that's when choked up a little.
Yeah,
And we've only known our horses for 4 days.
yeah.
It was hard. It was hard just building that bond and just having to say bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You captured a pretty cool moment on camera during that break where it was too hot for one of our break areas. Because sometimes that's just how the pickle squirts, right? But
Just how the pickle squirts.
I was gonna work that one in. I was trying so hard to work that in
Yeah.
with Matson. But tell us a little bit about that moment, man.
The video?
Yeah, the video.
Yeah, we were taking a little break. And like you said, it was a little too hot. We were expecting a little shade, but clouds covered us a little bit. And Diaz was right behind me. I was laid down up against a log, had my head resting on a log. And I just hear Diaz just going at it, grazing right behind me, just like few inches away, just going at it, just grazing, eating. And I was like, I'm gonna just whip out the phone, just take a little video. And as soon as I don't know if he saw the camera and he did this on purpose, but he whipped around and took off my hat,
Bumped it with his nose.
bumped it into it. Yeah, it was perfect. He looked straight into the camera after it, like he knew what he was doing for the camera. It's funny.
He did it for the gram.
He did it for the gram, did it for the views. And then I picked back up my hat and I didn't notice I had it on backwards. Jacob whispers in the video, "You have it on backwards." Oh, it was so embarrassing. I quickly turned it off, switched it. Yeah, it's funny.
Do you feel like you've developed some relationships with guys here?
Oh, of course, 100%. I think yeah, you guys. I feel like I can call you guys my brothers. Like
Absolutely, man.
you, Jacob, Matson, the Dry Creek boys, Jacob, Tim, Drew. Yeah, we grew a strong bond. Guys that I could pick up, I know I could pick up the phone 2 a.m., 7 in the morning, if I have something to talk about or it's an emergency, I know you guys would pick up. Yeah, no, it was strong.
Yeah, man. I think that as like you connect with people, you kind of get a read of who somebody is. I know I do. And I had definitely got that connection with you right off the rip. Like I thought, we kind of clicked right away. Like it was kind of like we've been boys like our whole lives. Like our
Right.
personalities just clicked in super, super quick. We're same with Jacob. Like he's a super quiet guy, but I mean, he just fell right in, man. Like
Yeah.
he could, he really started to open up and fly, which I think that's not usually his normal. So I think that was very special to see. What is something special that you saw during this trip?
Boy, too many things. One right off the bat would be just knowing, like what Drew said. I think it was on day 2, around the campfire. He was opening up, and he mentioned this. And he said, "You're not unique."
Yeah.
And at first, we all took it like that. Does sound a little disrespectful,
Right.
but then he clarified it. Like it's like you're not unique. You're not the only one with that problem. You know, there's people alike dealing with the same battles or worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're not special, dude. Like we're not special. No one's special. We all have something we're dealing with deep down. Um, yeah, that's one thing.
So I'll ask you one last final question, and then I can open up to you if there's anything you want to give. But what would you tell somebody who is interested in coming and working with at Ease?
Just come with an open mindset. Um, just open up, ready to learn, ready to make brothers, and to find something in you.
Yeah.
You know, everybody finds something different. Um, yeah, just come open, like open book.
Yeah.
You'll. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's almost like you write a new chapter in your book.
Yeah, man. You're opening up a new chapter in your life.
Yeah.
Learn something new about yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. How was Miss Juania's cooking?
Ooh, Miss Juania's 10 out of 10. Can't even describe it. I was telling Dom this. We didn't think that we were gonna eat like this.
Right.
With maybe some baked beans, some ramen noodles, some s'mores, some sandwiches.
Yeah.
Cold sandwich. No, dude, we had scrambled eggs. We had a brisket. We had pie with ice cream. You believe that?
Yeah.
Pie
in the
and
mountains.
ice cream in the mountains.
I'll tell you one thing, dude. I haven't had rhubarb pie in years. And when I had Miss Juanita's, and it was from her garden, it was probably the best rhubarb pie I've ever had in my whole entire life.
100%. 100%. You can't forget the biscuits and gravy, dude. Oh,
Oh, the biscuits and gravy were great.
dude.
It was fire. Let's. Anything else you wanna leave with? You wanna leave a message, or if you don't, it's fine too, man. I know it's putting you on the spot.
Yeah, just know that there's other people. You're not alone. You're not alone in this game of life. There's other people just like you dealing with the same hardships, and it's okay to reach out. It's okay to be vulnerable.
Amen.
It's in today's world, it's kind of frowned upon, or maybe you gotta tough it out, be a man.
Yeah.
But dude, just open up, let it out. It's like you gotta let that pressure out,
Yeah.
Because if not, it's gonna eat you up.
Absolutely, brother. Well, I'm proud to see how far you've come. I'm proud of how far you've come this far as a 25-year-old with your own trucking company, man. You're a badass. It's an honor to meet you. I'm glad I got to spend this time with you. I do want to give one last shout out is to Rio. She is a stud, which is Matson's dog. Come here, Rio. Come here, baby. He's a good girl. Yes. He's a good boy. Girls.
You come over here.
She's the best. Like, she rode with us every single day. And when I say we did what, maybe the last day 21 miles, she easily did 60 herself, because she would just run back and forth, and she's just the sweetest little girl.
Smart.
The best. Your dad did a good job with you, even though he used a rape whistle. There's a story behind that, but we won't get to it in this episode. But we appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of Beyond the Dispatch. We appreciate Matson and at Ease and all his staffing. It truly was a magical trip, and it was definitely life-changing. I say it all the time, it definitely fed my soul. But we appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.